Gary Parrish. Welcome back. CBS Sports, Eye on College Basketball podcast, where we sometimes discuss camel fighting, dodo birds, and leaky black. Matt Norlander is here with me. If you're watching on YouTube, you know what to do to the like button. Shouts to Brandon Davies. And if you haven't yet subscribed to the CBS Sports College Basketball YouTube channel, it would be awesome if you did that while you're here. Let's get into it. As I hope you know, we have launched our annual Candid Coaches series over at cbssports.com. If you're unfamiliar, here's the deal. Each year, what we do is we ask roughly 100 college basketball coaches a series of questions. We grant anonymity in exchange for honesty, and then we collect the answers. We publish them, and we've had 3 questions so far this week. Let's take them in the order that they were published. Norlander, you handled question number 1. Which team will be the best in college basketball this season? Tell the folks what the coaches told us.
The coaches came down to 2 above all others, which is not terribly surprising, but the exact breakdown was this. The Purdue Boilermakers won by 4 percentage points. Purdue got 32% of the vote. Then Houston got 28% of the vote. Then there's a drop, a relatively big drop. Then Duke and St. John's each received 8% of the vote. And then UConn and Florida coming off a national championship, and obviously UConn, the most recent national title winner pre-Gators, they each received 5% of the vote. And then Michigan, BYU, Louisville, and Kentucky were the other schools to receive multiple votes. But clearly Purdue won, Houston not very far behind at 2. Then you got a whole new tier with Duke, St. John's, UConn, Florida. That's the breakdown. We'll dive into it. I've got some recent history what the coaches have done. We'll save that for a second. Your thoughts on the voting return with the Boilermakers edging out the Cougars?
I do not. After being like 48 to 56% Boilermaker for each of the past 2 years, I do not have Purdue number 1, but I'm not interested in arguing against it.
Right.
It makes total sense. They bring back 2 All-Americans. That's a great place to start. 1 in the backcourt, 1 in the front court. Impactful transfer, presumably, from South Dakota State. Fletcher Lawyer also back for your starter. And then they enrolled an Israeli guard, Omar Meyer, who, by all accounts, is special as well, and has a chance to be a one-and-done college basketball player who launches into the 2026 NBA draft. So they're loaded. I mean, whatever you need to win a national championship, I think they've got it. The requisite talent, a top-shelf coach, experience. Maybe they're not loaded with lottery picks the way some national championship contenders sometimes are, but I think clearly that this is a national championship contender and perhaps the best one that Matt Painter has ever had.
Yeah, and on top of that, in the past 4 seasons, I think recent history suggests why they also got this amount of votes. Purdue has averaged 29 wins the past 4 seasons. Of course, made the national championship game, got knocked off by UConn in the Natty back in 24. Coming off a season in which they were a 4 seed, made the Sweet 16, won 24 games last season, returning a lot. Not surprised by it. And my guess going in, I sometimes like to know what we're going to ask and sometimes try and guess what the actual result's going to be. I would have guessed Houston won it. Houston's win total in the past 4 seasons is even stronger than Purdue overall. But Purdue having, a point guard that is considered extremely good. We'll get to that in about 10, 15 minutes or so. Not surprising at all. Recent history on this. So we have asked this question every year. Candid Coaches goes back to 2012, with the exception of 2020 when we didn't do it because it was COVID and we didn't even go out on the road and there just wasn't much reason to do it in that year. But we've done it every other year with the exception of that one. Oftentimes, the coaches don't get it right. Just recent history period. The past 2 years, so in 24 and 23, Kansas was the pick. And to no surprise, like the coaches, I think they're somewhat informed by what they know, and they're somewhat informed, frankly, by off-season rankings. Coaches are on Twitter. They're seeing Parrish's and other folks' rankings that get updated frequently as the portal goes along, as we get into the preseason and all that. So I think it's fair and, frankly, factual to say that a lot of coaches are at least informed by that. I definitely, every single year that we ask this question, I kind of split up my time between – it's usually half on the phone, half text. A couple coaches do it over email. But when the coaches I'm talking to over the phone, there are just reliably at least 6, 7, 8 of them that'll say like, all right, just give me a reminder, like who do we think is going to be in like top 5 level. So even when doing that, I'm tossing out teams. I typically try and do it where I'm showing like, okay, well, these are some of the teams that Parrish has that are near the top, but pick whoever you want. So just keep that in mind as well. But Kansas the past 2 years, that was that was back to back. In fact, yes, in 2023, after UConn won it all, and then would go on to be the best team the ensuing season, UConn was 7th in the voting in Candid Coaches coming off the first national championship. Obviously, it was by far the best team that ensuing season. In 2022, it was North Carolina, which is the preseason #1 team. Carolina didn't even make the tournament, so that was the swing and a miss by coaches there. The last time that we had the team picked in the Candid Coaches survey that wound up rating as the best team was Gonzaga. Now, Gonzaga didn't win the national title, but in 2021, Gonzaga was the pick, and GU did go on to be the #1 team at KenPom, got a 1 seed, didn't make the Final Four, but ratings-wise, the coaches did get that one correct. So just keep that in mind. That this is to a certain extent, it's a little bit dart throwing, GP. So that's some recent history there. Houston at 28% of the vote makes plenty of sense to me. I only got 1 vote. I told Parrish this over text when he was telling me the results. I only got 1 vote for St. John's. So St. John's representation in this poll, I believe, is a function of Parrish ranking them 1 and him getting in touch with coaches and coaches knowing who they're
because here's
yeah, might as well too. That's my guess on it. That's all.
Because here's what happens. I'll send like 50 text, and the way you explained it, we absolutely run into that. These coaches get these texts and they're like, so who's going to be the best team in college basketball? Since GP's asking me, what does he have? St. John's. All right, fine. I'll go with St. John's. I do think that happened because it was noticeable that I got more St. John's votes than you got, but they still ended up with 8% of the vote, which just feels low to me. Like, I know not everybody's a believer, but like in terms of talent, I don't know that there's I don't want to say St. John's has the most talented roster in the country, but they've certainly got one of the most talented rosters in the country, and they've got one of the best coaches in the country. Like, one of the best rosters, one of the best coaches, put them together, you should get good stuff.
Yeah, I was surprised I didn't get at least a couple more nods for St. John's, but that also got dispersed around. Again, didn't finish in the top 7, but Kentucky, even Louisville, BYU, Michigan. We got. I like seeing that we didn't end this having polled just about 100 coaches and only having 6 schools get a nod. We got a full-on 10 that got multiple votes. In fact, even schools like Illinois and Texas Tech, I think I each got 1 there. I think the best, in my opinion, the best school that didn't get a vote, which is, I'm not saying I think that they will be the #1 team or should be, or not even necessarily a top 5 team, but the best team that just didn't get a nod period, I think, is Arizona. That would be my pick. I don't think either of us got a vote for Arizona. So if you're wondering who just missed out on getting a little a nod there, I'd go with the Wildcats. UConn and Florida each at 5%. GP. I would have expected one or the other maybe to get a little bit higher than that. UConn has a case, I think a compelling case to be preseason top 5, as does Florida. Any quick takeaways on either of those schools? Obviously, both of them made some pretty notable and noisy additions in the portal, but also are bringing back pieces that stand to potentially with, either Caravan or Solo Ball. We'll see. And then on Florida side, and we'll see if it's, hand logged in or whomever it winds up being in the front court there with the Gators, who's going to be a first-team All-American. Just your thoughts on what the Gators were able to do.
Well, I think Florida has a real chance to repeat as national champions the same way UConn repeated as national champions. It'd be wild if we went like decades without that happening, and then it happened twice in such a small span of time. But that's on the table. They replaced those guards with high-level transfer portal guards, and they were already loaded in the front court, getting those guys to come back to school. At UConn, I like the Huskies roster heading into this season more than I liked the roster heading into last season. Don't go look at preseason rankings from last year because that might contradict it, but I think we've talked about that enough. I was sort of trusting the UConn staff. They believed they had a team that was good enough to go back to back to back. And I was sort of I just sort of trusted into that. But once we saw it on the court, the team was clearly flawed from the jump. This roster looks like it's capable of winning a national championship. So Florida could go back-to-back. UConn could win 3 in a 4-year span. Both of those things are storylines heading into the season.
Yeah, no question. I think the top 7 vote getters make a lot of sense. Just a real quick note on Houston. We haven't really talked about them too much, but we're going to talk about them plenty more on Candid Coaches as the series goes along in general. But Kelvin Sampson returning, Uzan coming back, and we've talked about obviously the shoot around on them. So we've touched on them plenty, but just for the purposes of this quick convo here, number of coaches just buying into the general idea that Kelvin Sampson will be as motivated, if not more than ever this year after coming so close last year. A couple coaches cited Tugler, thinking that he could be the best defender in the sport this season. I think there could be something to that. And just it's at this point, Houston has reached the stage where until it doesn't prove to be quite literally and statistically one of the 2 best teams in the country, got to give them the benefit of the doubt. So it stands to reason that they finished number 2 and a close number 2 to Purdue.
Let's go to question number 2. With that one, we asked roughly 100 college coaches what percentage of their school's revenue sharing budget do they believe should go to the sport of men's basketball. I'll tell you what they told us. We'll do that next, but first let's get a word from our partners.
Lamar dancing around the pocket. He does this so well. All the way for the touchdown.
Question number 2 in our Candid Coaches series. This is what we asked. We asked roughly 100 college basketball coaches, what percentage of the revenue sharing budget at your school do you believe should go to the sport of men's basketball? We had to separate the answers into 2 categories, one for coaches at schools with FBS football programs and another for coaches at schools without FBS football programs. Coaches at schools with FBS football programs. So if the terminology is weird to you, just think of like Clemson, Alabama, SEC, Big Ten, that type of thing. They basically told us they expect somewhere between 20 and 30%. Some got a little higher, some a little lower, but that seemed to be the sweet spot, 20 to 30%. When we started talking to coaches who work at schools without FBS football, so think of like Big East schools, A-10 schools, they told us they're expecting to get roughly 90%, in some cases even higher, of their school's revenue sharing budget. Now, to be clear, at an SEC school or a Big Ten school, that's going to be, for the basketball coaches there, 20 to 30% of $20.5 million. At some of these other schools, it could be 90%, but not necessarily of $20.5 million. It could be 90% of 10 or 90% of 5, correct, 90% of 3. Not everybody has this. Not everybody's going all the way up to 20.5. So that's the gist of it. Let me ask you, I'll start you with this. Did you hear anything that surprised you?
The only things that surprised me were how frank, again, the coaches are given the benefit of being on background here and not being identified. So a few coaches essentially saying, I need to root against my football team, or putting it plainly, if our football team is getting 80% or 60%, it's not going to matter, in my opinion, in talking to people in our athletic department. Now they're going to get that money, but it's not going to affect what the record is on the field. I probably got that response, from 4 or 5 coaches there. I was a little surprised by how rational most coaches were. Now I did also, in talking to a lot of these coaches, I said, listen, before I ask you this, I'm going to ask you to put yourself in the shoes of your athletic director. So I'm giving you the responsibility of running an athletic department to just try and curb some of the natural bias and that college basketball coaches would have. So I think that also helped as well. But I thought the conversation, this prompted as much response as maybe any question we had on my end this year. Specifically, I'll give you a couple quick data points. With the coaches we talked to that are at the high major level that have Power 4 football, essentially, the most common response is 20%. 20% of $20.5 million equates to their program having $4.1 million in revenue sharing broadly speaking, I think that's a fair number. I think that's talking to a lot of coaches, like 4 million needs to be the absolute floor. They feel like the floor. A lot of coaches that aren't, at or above 6 feel inherently uncomfortable at this moment there. And then for schools that don't have Power 4 or high level FBS football, you get into a situation where you got MAC coaches where they've got FBS football, like they've got to pay. So it's kind of in between the A10 and the SEC model. The most common answer there was 50%, which was lower than I was expecting. But again, you need to account for the fact that there are non-high major coaches at institutions that still have to pay a lot to football, albeit at a tier or two down from the high major level there. This is the number one topic in the sport over the past 3 or 4 months. It's why we included it in the survey. Coaches are wanting to know how much their competitors have. And many cases, 5 or 6 cases, GP, when I was talking to some of these either head coaches or assistants at that high major level, they still don't actually have, at least this is what they told me. I don't see why they would be lying about it, because it's not a thing that you'd want to lie about. They do not know right now. Some of these questions are now 3 weeks old that I've had these conversations with, or a month old, but they didn't know how much revenue sharing they were going to have for 26-27 for the upcoming season. They had a general idea, but to use a hypothetical number, they couldn't tell me if it was going to be 2.7 million, 3.3, or 3.9 million. And the difference in $4 or $6 or $800,000 actually means a whole hell of a lot when you're trying to account for future roster building. So I wrote a story on this earlier this month. It's not even close. This is the thing that coaches are consistently worried about talking about. Brad Underwood had a big interview that he met with the media about a lot of this stuff in general. You're going to hear even more about it as coaches have more media availability heading into the preseason. So, I encourage our readers and listeners and viewers to go and actually, GP had the byline on this, it'll be linked in the pod description, but go and read this in full, read the quotes to really get an understanding of where coaches land on this, because it is an ever evolving story, and where things stand right now in September of 25 with how much money programs do or don't have versus what will be their reality next April or May is a high anxiety point.
It's such a goofy system. It's just goofy. I was going to say there's a better way to do this. There's like a million better ways to do this than the way that they're actually doing it, which is why this system, if we're still talking in 5 years, the same system will not be in place. It'll be something new, because it's just littered with issues. The biggest of which is that it's going to bring high stakes under the table cheating back to the sport. But in the short term, it's exactly as you explained. Basketball coaches right now are showing up to football games on Saturdays and rooting against their football team, because the way you have to think about this is it's a pot of money clearly defined, and every dollar that goes here is a dollar that can't go here. Mm-hmm. And I've had multiple coaches over the past few months say to me, the last thing I need is my football coach going out and winning 10 games in a conference championship, because they already want to give him all the money, and they might if he does that. Like prominent basketball programs, like Big Ten programs, SEC programs, and I have talked to coaches who right now think they're broke. They're like, man, I had all the money in the world a year ago, 2 years ago. Now I don't have as much as I need. I don't have as much as other people in my league, or I don't even know what I'm going to have. And it could be dictated by the success of our football program over the next couple of months. It's just a goofy system. One coach suggested we use the quote that a better way to do this would just have, instead of having a salary cap for athletic departments, have a salary cap for individual sports. To be clear, I don't want any caps on anything unless it's collectively bargained and agreed upon, blah, blah, blah. But just, it would be more sensible if you had a football salary cap and a basketball salary cap and a women's basketball salary cap and a women's soccer salary cap, however you want to do it, and make the numbers whatever they are. But we are about to head into a season where the Kentucky basketball coach and the Alabama basketball coach, both of whom are really good and capable of guiding their programs to Final Fours and national titles, theoretically, they might not be operating with the same.
Well, there's no theoretically about it. They are not. They are millions apart.
Right. I mean, that's goofy. That's goofy.
Well, that's an institutional decision, and
I'm saying the
goofy.
institution shouldn't be having to make those decisions. To break it up like this is goofy.
Because this is a football. Like, this is all because of football. So basketball, like, a lot of this is not new in the regard that football has been driving the bus on all of this stuff in college athletics, and really even in a way that transcends college athletics for 10, 15 years now. When you look at what realignment has done and just the hundreds of millions that have been pushed in different directions as a result of that. So this is I know you know this, Parrish, but just for our listeners.
Yeah.
Well, this is all happening because football decided it. So you said the system won't exist in 5 years. I'm more inclined to agree with you than not, but I'm telling you, football is going to continue to be the one that determines all of this stuff. And I will be interested to see what switch gets flipped, what lever gets pulled to change the current arrangement. Because what I do not think will happen, I could be wrong, but what I don't think will happen is what some coaches are saying will happen. And that is that we're not going to get to 2 years from now and allow an Atlantic 10 program to have more money to spend on its men's basketball program than an SEC program. That's just ridiculous. Maybe it is, but again, it's not the 8-10s program's fault that it doesn't get all the benefits of having a football program. And so this is one of the consequences of those decisions that are driven by football. That's all. It's far from perfect, and there's a quote in there. I won't read it here. Go read the story. It came from a coach I talked to at a program that doesn't have football, and he was cracking up talking to me about how much paranoia there is among some of these coaches. And he's like, man, these schools have had this. I'm going to paraphrase him. These schools have had the edge forever, man, forever. And so now they're a little bit behind, and now the world is ending here. The quote I gave you is about a fourth of how long that quote was in general. I had to cut it off at one point, but he had very good points. It's not their problem that football decided to do this, and now the schools that have football got to figure out how much they're going to allot to basketball. And so that's why we're here, and that's why we did the question.
I got it. The issue is going to become the schools, a lot of the schools that have big-time football and that had the power to influence us going down this path, they're going to end up with really frustrated basketball coaches who are getting outbid by A-10 schools and Big East schools, and that is going to be the thing that triggers the lever to be pulled. Obviously, football runs everything. That's nothing new. It ran conference realignment for decades. None of this is new. What is new, and what I'm specifically talking about, is this. For years, no matter the importance of football and men's basketball, all the men's basketball programs theoretically were playing by the same set of rules. You can't give anything. Now, we know they did, but the rules were clear. You cannot provide money, extra benefits, so on and so forth. Then briefly, we got rid of all that, and it was basically a free-for-all. You could do whatever you want. Sign PJ Haggerty a $4 million NIL deal. We don't care. Do whatever you want to do. And that was chaotic, but, at least we understood why PJ Haggerty was playing at Memphis and then why he transferred to Kansas State. And the answers to the questions were right there in front of us. Now, and so, again, you could do whatever you were capable of doing. If you could raise the money, you could spend the money. If you could get access to the money, you could spend it. Now we're in a situation where quite literally different coaches are fighting with different weapons. By the rules, there are going to be coaches who have, let's just say, $8 million to spend, and other coaches who have $2 million to spend. And in some cases, it might not be that dramatic, but these coaches are going to be in the exact same league, competing for the exact same conference championship, but they will be shopping with wildly different salary caps relative to their individual sports. That is goofy, and that will not last.
Yeah, and it's going to lead to some incredible stories and some real fallout in the weeks and months and maybe years to come. We'll see. You want to move on to question number 3?
Yeah, let's do it. Question number 3, we asked roughly 100 college coaches who they expect to be college basketball's best player this season. You handled this one. It published on Thursday morning. No surprise that Braden Smith was the winner. He got 51% of the vote. Was that a surprise? Because as you noted in the column, we've been doing this since 2012. Oh, time flies. We've asked this question nearly every year, and nobody has ever gotten more than 50% of the vote. Braden Smith got 51% in this year's Candid Coaches series. Did that surprise you?
It did, and I'm going to tell you why. But first, let's take a quick break.
When you need your sports news all the time,
we've got breaking news to bring to you.
CBS Sports HQ gives you a snapshot of all the sports that matter to you. When you need your sports in a snap, find it on CBS Sports HQ, streaming free anywhere you are.
Okay. Let's get rich. Let's keep.
Well, you in the rundown, you had a break after question 2, so I
know, but then I decided maybe we'd do a break after question 3. But whatever, we'll do another one.
Let's get that information.
Hey, let's make all the money we can make.
That sounds good. That sounds good. All right, so I definitely thought. I assume you did as well. This question, Braden Smith would win it. I thought he would win it. You agree going in, not knowing what
he's the obvious answer. He is the only first-team All-American who returned to college. He's the reigning Big Ten Player of the Year. He's on a preseason top 5 team.
Yep.
I don't know if he'll hold the trophy at the end of the season, but he deserves this label right now.
Yes. Okay. So I'm not surprised by that. I was very surprised by the margin. One caveat on this needs to be made clear. Purdue, you can actually boast on this 2 times over because we again. Candid Coaches goes back to the summer of 2012. The only year we didn't ask this question when we did the poll was in 2023 because we decided by asking this question, Zach Edey was returning to college basketball after having won National Player of the Year. And at minimum, he was going to get 80% of the vote. At minimum, he might have gotten 90 or 95%. We just thought it would have been a farce to ask the question. So Purdue, in effect, has had the 2 players that have brought back the most obvious, biggest returns ever. Edey was so dominant, we didn't even do it. And here Smith breaks the record. Previous record held, Cassius Winston in 2019 got 50% of the vote. I've got the, before we get into this year's returns, here's the history. I have every single year we've done this, and then whether or not that player won National Player of the Year. We are going to go oldest to newest, okay? 2012, actually trivia time, just a quick one. This will be the only one. Trivia time. Although it might have been in the story, so you might have seen it, so you might have known it. 2012, who won it? Did you look?
I mean, I know that's the Anthony Davis year, right?
No, Anthony Davis, we would have asked in 2011 if we did the poll.
Okay.
So this is after. So there's 2012. It was the 2012-13 season in advance of that.
Yeah, I don't know.
Cody Zeller, 35% of the vote, was the first winner of us ever doing it. But Trey Burke won National Player of the Year that year. 2013, Marcus Smart won with 34%. Doug McDermott was the National Player of the Year. 2014 came the first time they actually matched up. The preseason pick was the Endpoy, Frank Kaminsky, with only 17% of the vote, but it was the most, and Kaminsky won. In 2015, it was Chris Dunn at Providence, 26%, but that year, Buddy Hield and Denzel Valentine split the vote. 2016, Grayson Allen won with the fewest percentage points of any. It was the most split ever. He had 13% of the vote. Frank Mason won National Player that year. 2017, Michael Porter Jr. of Missouri, incoming freshman, got 20% of the vote. Jalen Brunson and the national champion Villanova Wildcats won that year. 2018, a Duke player got the votes, and a Duke player won National Player of the Year, but it wasn't the same guy. R.J. Barrett, 16% of the vote, got it. Zion Williamson, of course, won National Player of the Year that forthcoming season. 2019, I just mentioned it. Winston at Michigan State got 50%, but Obi Toppin won National Player of the Year. 2021, Drew Timme won it, but Oscar Tshiebwe won National Player of the Year. 2022, Drew Timme won in back-to-back years, and Zach Edey then won National Player of the Year. And then the past 2 years, and when it would have been accurate, Edey would have won it if we did the question. He won National Player of the Year. And a year ago, Cooper Flagg won with 36% of the vote, and then he won National Player of the Year. So only 3 times has the coach's pick gone on to be the National Player of the Year. Flagg, Edey if we had done it, and then Kaminsky back in 14. Yes or no? Will Braden Smith be the 4th, GP?
Yes, unless one of the freshmen just take off. It will be Braden Smith or a freshman.
Okay.
Because you just don't know until you see it with these freshmen. Like AJ DeBanson could come out and be Kevin Durant, right? Darren Peterson could come out and be Kobe Bryant. I mean, you don't know exactly. We know those guys are special talents. Sometimes they're just good college basketball players. Other times they just pop, and you can tell it like opening night. Go back and look at Michael Beasley's opening night. It was like, oh, guy went for like 30 and 20 or something crazy like that. And it was like, okay, here we go. and then, he just consistently did that. So I don't believe it'll be any other. It'll be Braden Smith or or a freshman, and I would lean toward Braden Smith, if only because like there's just no way he's not going to be good. He's going to be really good on a really good team. Like that's the baseline. There's only injuries could make him anything other than a awesome player on an awesome team.
Here's your Braden Smith rundown. Then I'll get to the full voting return for our viewers and listeners. He's the reigning Big Ten Player of the Year. He's second in career scoring among players that have been in the Big Ten for their whole careers. Actually, he's behind Bruce Thornton in that regard, but he's a point guard, obviously. He has 758 assists. He needs 8 more to move into third place on the Big Ten's career assist mark. He averaged 15.8 points, 8.7 assists, 4.5 rebounds last season, was the Cousy Award winner for the top point guard. And he has 1,375 points, 758 assists, 535 rebounds in 3 seasons. He's only played 3. He hasn't played 4 yet. He is the only player in Big Ten history and only one of 16 players in NCAA D1 history period to have 1,300 points, at least 700 assists, and 500 boards. He has done this with a full season still ahead of him. He needs 125 points and 242 assists, which he's obviously pacing to do, to become the first player in NCAA men's D1 history with at least 1,500 points, 1,000 assists, and 500 rebounds. He, if provided, knock on wood, nothing for the best for him. If he can have a full healthy season, he is going to be as statistically decorated as almost any point guard, essentially since Bobby Hurley. He's going to be in very rarefied air. It's this kind of stuff, in addition to a lot of coaches. Between you and I don't know the exact number. I would venture there were at least 25 of the coaches that we talked to had to game plan against Braden Smith at some point in the past 3 years. Their votes are informed by what they've seen him do, what on the tape, going up against them, seeing it right there in front of their faces. It's why he got such a big percentage of the vote. But it's so very college basketball. Like my big takeaway on this, before we get to the rest of the guys on the list, it is so very college basketball. Love it or hate it, whatever. I love it. That a guy who is listed, he's listed at like 6 feet, 170, 175 pounds. He takes shoes off, Braden Smith. I don't think he's 6 feet, and I'm not sure he cracks 170. He gets 51% of the vote. This sets a record, but he's an awesome player, and we'll see if he can be the kind of guy that is so good playing alongside. Oh, by the way, like the fact that he got this vote when he's got Kaufman right on the team, they got plenty of stuff around him. That to me is intriguing. Here's the voting return overall. Beyond Smith at 51. JT Toppin was number 2 at 14%. Then you get into the freshmen. Darren Peterson, 9%. AJ DeBanza, 7%. Donovan Dent, actually not a freshman, UCLA transfer, 5%. Cam Boozer, 4%. Yaxel Lendenborg, 4%. And then other players that received votes, PJ Haggerty at Kansas State, Bennett Sturts at Iowa. I think I either got 1 or 2 votes for, I think I got 2 for Sturts. And the 2 I got, the guys who gave them to me, which, to be clear, if I interview a coach and they have the player on their team, they're not allowed. I don't allow them to vote for him. So these were not.
I do.
I don't. I try and abide by the same rules that the coaches poll goes by, where you can't vote for your own team to avoid bias. So the point is the people that gave me Sturts, they're like, this dude is unreal, and you need to consider him for first team All-American status. So he got a couple, and then Milos Uzan at Houston also got some votes there. The pick of all the guys, Peterson, Banza, Boozer, they could be. We're just treated to that's an awesome trio of freshmen. They're very different in their games. What they're going to be asked to do on their respective teams is also very different. I can't wait to see what they do. Donovan Dent is a fun pick in this poll. He got 5% of the vote. A couple coaches that we put the quotes in. One said, quote, fastest player in America, elite open floor playmaker. Cronin will get him to guard and expand his game. Dent last year averaged 20.4 points at New Mexico, 6.4 assists, 2.3 rebounds, and shot 40% from 3. It's big time stuff. So he's my fun, dark horse pick. Yaxel Lendenborg, most notably, averaged 17.7 points, 4.2 assists, 1.8 blocks, 1.7 steals. He led UAB in all 5 statistical categories. Only he and Cooper Flagg last year, the only players in the country to lead their teams in all 5 major categories. And then JT Toppin, who came in number 2, he averaged just over 18 points, 9.5 boards, 55 and change from the field, and 1.5 blocks. He was comfortably number 2. Going to have a huge target on him. Texas Tech has preseason top 10 potential. Be interested to see if he winds up being number 2. I think he can, for sure. But I want to see how this carries over now when he's clearly he's going to be a junior. Can he take up an even bigger step there? Fun question. We ask it every year. Always intrigued to see, because this one is not informed by any kind of preseason poll. So getting the return here, I was interested all around. Any other takeaways from the question?
I do let coaches vote for their own teams or their own players. I kind of like it when they do. Like I had coaches vote for their own players on this question. And I think multiple coaches vote for their own teams. Who's going to be the best team in college basketball this season? I had multiple coaches say us.
Yeah. Well,
And they're both
egregious then. Like it's got to hit a point, Parrish, where like, if a team that's objectively picked to be in the bottom third of a power conference league, like you can't let that coach vote there.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I've never run into that though. The only time I've ever had coaches say it's going to be us, we're going to be the best team, is when they have a very legitimate case to have the best team in the country. So I don't outlaw it, but I've never gotten any crazy answers. There are only 3 consensus All-Americans who are back in school. It's Braden Smith, JT Toppin, and PJ Haggerty.
Mm-hmm.
So it was interesting that Smith and Toppin were 1 and 2, and Haggerty was just in the other receiving votes. What do you think accounts for that?
Wasn't playing as prominent. I mean, listen, he played for a good team last year, a solid team in Memphis, a really, really good scorer, isn't seen as strong of a all-around player as the other 2, and is now going to Kansas State, not a preseason projected top 25 team. I think all of that adds to it there. But if Haggerty,
he was the American Player of the Year over Yaxel Lindenborg, and Yaxel Lindenborg got more votes in this, but that could be a byproduct of he's going to be on a preseason top 10 team at Michigan.
I think that's exactly what it is.
Right.
Lindenborg was considered, I think, comfortably like a top 5 transfer in the portal. That's just what his reputation was. Haggerty was probably in that general range as well, but Lindenborg went to Michigan and is seen as his inclusion is what validates Michigan in top 10 standing heading into the season. Haggerty's gone to Kansas State, and some of this is a byproduct, obviously, of Kansas State a year ago, really loading up in the portal, getting some good preseason buzz and falling flat, being one of, a half dozen teams that just fell after not making the kind of waves they thought that would be in the portal. So now can Haggerty go against it? That's why it happened. But certainly, I'm glad he got at least a vote because I think he was deserving of recognition there. I wrote it in my story. I think the best player all around that didn't get a vote is probably Otega Oweh at Kentucky. He would be my pick. He was probably the most. Yeah, I think he's the strongest not to get a vote. But I don't know. We got plenty of guys got nods, but yeah, Smith running away with it is certainly interesting, and the haters are going to have to deal with it because from Edey to Smith, the 2 players just completely opposite in terms of everything about them, but they're at the same program, and you and I both know it, Parrish. The college basketball fans, certainly the casuals, they love to hop on social media and just crap all over that school, crap all over its best players. And 51%, if Braden Smith wins National Player of the Year, they're going to have to live with it. He's undeniably an awesome player, but this kind of thing I know will drive some people up a wall. But hey, it's the coaches voting. You're gonna have to deal with it. They know what they're talking about at least some of the time, and that's what they said.
I had a coach. I think we used the quote, mention Braden Smith and the NBA. And said, just trust me, he's going to be there. Do you believe that he will play in the NBA?
You got to define play in the NBA.
Like dribble a ball in the NBA.
So one possession he played in the NBA? Then yes.
Is he going to have a meaningful NBA career?
Will he play? Will he log at least 250 games in the NBA? How about that?
Will he be a rotation player for multiple years?
I'm going to say yes. And the biggest reason I'm going to say yes is, be it on record or on background, Matt Painter's belief in Braden Smith, beyond just being his head coach, to the point where he has spoken to NBA general managers and just people across basketball, and knowing full well the difference between the college game and the pro game, is as in on him as he obviously was with Zach Edey, and we see how that's gone initially. It's gone relatively well for Zach. So, yeah, you say rotational player. I said it at 250 games, which is actually, that's a decent amount. But I'll still say, I'll say he logs minutes in at least 250 NBA games in his life. Yes,
I'm going to say yes too, yes as well. The only reason, if I were skeptical at all, that I would be skeptical is that he is very small. And
he's not an elite. He's not an elite athlete. He's a really good player, but he's obviously not an elite athlete. That's quite obvious if you watch it.
And it has become, I think it is right now harder than ever to be a little guard in the NBA because everybody's bigger now.
Yep.
I mean, everybody's bigger now. I think it is harder than ever to be a 6-foot point guard or a below 6-foot point guard than it's ever been. But they do exist. And if anybody can make it at that size, it's a guy like him. Fred VanVleet, I believed in for the exact same reasons. I'm going to believe he can do it until, there's evidence to the contrary. But I tend to try to believe in people like this. I think he's going to be good. The other thing, and then we can move on, that just sort of stands out as you look at the history of National Players of the Year. Yeah, you get the incredible recruits who become that, like Kevin Durant, Zion Williamson, Cooper Flagg, Anthony Davis. But also this popped in my head because as I was reading what you wrote, you noted that Braden Smith was, I think, ranked 198th in his high school class.
Yeah.
Like Zach Edey, 2-time National Player of the Year, was a nothing recruit.
He was in the 400s.
Yes. Yeah. Luka Garza was a borderline top 100 guy.
Mm-hmm.
Frank Mason was just, I think,
like this is Housen.
I think he was the 6th best recruit in that Kansas class. If you go look at it, 6th best in the class, something like that. Obi Toppin was whatever. Doug McDermott was a mid-major recruit. Like Doug McDermott played high school basketball with, is this right, Andrew?
Barnes.
Harrison Barnes. That's right.
Yeah.
Like every coach in America came through to see Harrison Barnes, saw Doug McDermott, and they thought he was a mid-major player. Yeah. He goes on to be a National Player of the Year. So I just sort of like that about college basketball. These guys can't come from anywhere. Obviously, it's advantageous to be the 5-star guy, but you can wherever you were ranked coming out of high school, there are examples. Somebody like you has held the Wooden Award before.
Yeah, no, it's I love it. I do love it about that sport, and we'll see what develops this season. Real quick, and then we'll news and notes. So the top, we saw the top vote getters. Smith, Toppin. Let's do Smith, Toppin, Peterson, DeBanza, Boozer, and Dent. Not even Lendenborg. So take those 6. Okay, would you take one of those 6 or the field to win National Player of the Year? I would take one of those 6, but there's always someone can always pop in and really, no one. If a year ago JT Toppin would not have been remotely close to this, and look what he did. And we had him as an All-American. He was obviously one of the 5 to 7 best players in the sport. So those 6 are the field.
I'd take those 6.
Yeah. When do you get down to the field? How if I take away Dent and I take away Boozer, do you take Smith?
Give me Braden Smith and the 3 freshmen, and I'm good. Like I think that's where it's coming from.
Okay.
Give me Braden. Now Donovan Dent suddenly at UCLA, top 10-ish team. He's the reigning Mountain West Player of the Year. He could be the Big Ten player. I mean, we've got 2, of the best conference players of the year reigning in the same league now.
Yep. By way of transfer, yes.
By way of transfer. So I could see something like that. But, yeah, give me Braden Smith and the 3 top freshmen, and I feel like our National Player of the Year is coming from that list. I need 4 players, and you can have everybody else.
I'll tell you what, looking back at these National Player of the Years, Shibwe is the only one that won it with the team that he didn't start his career with. Flagg Duke, Edey Purdue, Shibwe, West Virginia, Toppin Dayton, Zion Duke, Brunson Nova, Mason Kansas, Heald and Valentine respectively, Oklahoma and Michigan State, Kaminsky Wisconsin, McDermott Creighton, Burke Michigan. So we'll see. Shibwe is the only one that did it, and he did it through sheer statistical force with his defense and rebounding numbers. All right, let's keep it moving here. Just a quick news and notes segment. Let's go with coaching stuff first. We obviously had a Bruce Pearl emergency reaction earlier this week. Stephen Pearl has subsequently had his introductory press conference there, and Auburn it adjusts in real time here to a new era. We talked about this on the show, but Bruce did release that he's doesn't plan to go into politics, and so there we have it. There is more coaching news happening though. Mentioned a couple of these at the end of that show, but Wofford has since officially announced that Kevin Giltner, former Virginia Tech assistant who actually played at Wofford, played under Mike Young, he is now the coach there. That still remains it. That's trying to move forward, but that whole thing with getting rid of Dwight Perry, very, very weird situation at Wofford in general, has caused a lot of heads to turn in the industry, but changed nonetheless. And then 2 bad stories. One I mentioned at the end of the show, it had not yet been made public. It has since been made public, and that is Cal State Bakersfield coach Rod Barnes. The technical description is that he has stepped down. Again, I was told last Friday the president of that university had made the decision to make a change with its program. It just took a few days for that to process, if you will, and Barnes steps down. Again, the story behind this is very ugly. One of his assistants has been arrested and charged with a litany of just horrendous crimes, including human trafficking. The official wording, according to authorities in California, is, quote, pimping and pandering, end quote, but also subsequently found child pornography on his cell phone. I believe he's pleaded not guilty, but it remains to be seen how that case will be moving forward. Nonetheless, they wanted to have something of a reset. Barnes stepped away. This was one of his subordinates. You're the head coach. Whatever reason, they make the change there. And we have another coach. I alluded to this, but I didn't specifically name him on the show because at that point the investigation had not been confirmed or details not been made public. Now it has. Wagner coach Donald Copeland is under suspension for allegedly mistreating his players. If you want to use the word abuse, that's an allegation that's out there. Credit to Zach Braziller, who does a really good job. He's the St. John's beat reporter, but does a good job covering just general New York City area college basketball. He broke the story on Wednesday morning, and Copeland, it's Parrish, it's genuinely astounding to me that you could be accused of this kind of behavior in 2025 because this was even like, again, if he's proven to have done it. He's currently serving a suspension. It's unclear if he'll return from that suspension or if this will lead to a resignation or job termination. We don't know it at this point. But according to Brazil's reporting, would run his team ragged. The most egregious of the incident, in addition to some inappropriate language being used, allegedly wouldn't allow his team to have water breaks during certain practices. Even one of his former players who spoke on the record said, it'd be one thing if this was, and I'm paraphrasing him here, but he said, it'd be one thing if this was every so often, but this was like every day. His exact quote, I believe, was, it was a war on and off the court. There was a specific instance where a player was hiding a Gatorade. I mean, this is when just, if true, just egregious. Player was hiding a Gatorade bottle somewhere in the gym because they weren't allowed water breaks. So the player has to sneak in a damn water bottle into practice. And then the water bottle is found. The player is caught. And then allegedly, again, emphasize the alleged on this part, Copeland proceeded to make the team run. And as a result of that, per the Post sources, I think reviewing one such email, one player had to be taken to the hospital as a result of this. Another one had passed out. So very ugly situation. I have reached out to Copeland, who opted not to respond, but the athletic director at Wagner did confirm with CBS Sports Wednesday that an investigation is underway. I'll give you the just for formal purposes here, GP. I will give you the actual quote from Walt, the AD there at Wagner. It's been a busy coaching carousel here the past couple of weeks. The exact quote is, Wagner College takes student health and well-being seriously. Upon learning of these allegations, we move quickly to review them. As we continue to do so, we will not comment further on this matter, end quote, in addition to confirming this suspension with CBS Sports. So there we have it. A couple more news items about that.
Well, first, this is outrageous. Obviously, these are allegations. I wasn't in the gym. We'll wait for the investigation to conclude. But if true, as reported, you deserve to lose your job and probably never to coach again. I mean, it's 2025. You hear a story like the stories that are coming out of that program, and the person telling them should be like, so I grew up in the 60s. And man, I had this coach one time and he wouldn't even let us have water breaks. And you'd be like, oh, grandpa, that's crazy. It's 2025. Like what? The allegation is that they have no water breaks. They're running nonstop. Players are dehydrated. One has to be hospitalized. And if you said something like, hey, coach, could I get some water? The allegation is that his response was, in some cases, if you're thirsty, drink your spit. If you're thirsty, drink your spit. I just can't imagine working my entire adult life on some level to try to put myself in a position to be a Division I head coach and then blow it over stupid shit like this. Mm-hmm. Like you don't have to demean people to be an effective coach. You don't have to demean people to be effective at basically anything, as far as I know. But the idea that this is the way you have to coach is just, I don't think it's ever been true, but it's certainly not true in the year 2025. It's just, like, I don't even understand how people reach a point where they can't grasp, I am way over the line right now. And honestly, I can't understand how somebody on his staff couldn't reel him in at some point and be like, buddy, you about to get all of us fired if you keep acting like this. Because had I been his friend or confidant, that's the first thing I would have said when I witnessed what is alleged to have gone down. I would have pulled him aside and said, this is your program. I work for you. I know, but you are going to get us all in trouble if we keep operating this way. It's just stupid, reckless. And now it appears he's going to pay a big price for it.
And just, you have to be an idiot to think that withholding hydration from your players makes them perform better. Like that's just
like an actual idiot with real, like, man, once you get your pink slip, get in therapy and figure this out.
Yeah. I mean, come on.
Once you get your pink slip, get into therapy and figure out why you thought you needed to demean young men who should be looking up to you. Why you thought you needed to demean young men and punish them to the point to where at least one was reportedly hospitalized. Once you get your pink slip, get into therapy and figure out why you thought you needed to do your job that way. Cause man, you got some work to do.
Yeah. I'll also emphasize, obviously, if true, but it's reached the point where there was enough where they felt compelled to suspend him. We'll wait for more details to come out. It is Wagner, but yeah, just a bizarrely busy coaching situation in college basketball in September. We basically never have this. That's on top of just like Billy Lang left St. Joe's to go coach in the NBA. There's just been a lot there. A couple more notes and let's bounce here. Iowa State point guard Tamin Lipsey will be out 4 to 6 weeks. The school revealed that he has a sprained right MCL. Parrish, he is as important to that team this season as any player there. Has never missed a start in his career. Quick reacts to the situation there and whether we think it'll impact, 4 to 6 weeks means maybe he'll be available at the start of the season. But if you told me he wasn't, I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, it's obviously not ideal, if only because it's not just about being ready for the start of the season. Like, you're missing 4 to 6 weeks of workouts with your teammates and just you lose something. I never met a coach who didn't think a player missing a lengthy amount of time in the preseason didn't negatively impact, things on some level. So it's not good. It's not an Achilles. It happened in, late September as opposed to late October. That's better, but it's not ideal for an Iowa State program that, should continue to operate at a high level, which it's been doing consistently under TJ.
I think Lipsey has a chance if healthy, and he can get good and get right quicker. I actually think he can be an All-American this season. I think that's how much he means to Iowa State if it all comes together. 2 more. One, this one I did not see coming. The NCAA on Wednesday, I guess, or Tuesday, ruled that you can play in the G League and then become eligible in college hoops. So Theory Darlin is going to play at Santa Clara, and he is good to go after playing 2 years for G League Ignite. I don't know how many other players are seeking this route. I assume more will now that this is something that's on the table there. Personally, I don't have an issue with it whatsoever. Get me as much good talent as is allowable and reasonable in college basketball, period. But he's going to go to Santa Clara. It's produced the likes of Jalen Williams and Brandon Pajemski as of late. So I don't know if he has an NBA future or not. Frankly, I don't know anything about this player. But nevertheless, it's going to play in the WCC. Any quick thoughts on it?
Yeah, it's like, where do we go from here? I mean, Rick Pitino jumps on Twitter and is like, should I be recruiting NBA players now? Like, I'm going to put a call into Giannis. Because tell me, practically speaking, what is the difference here? What is the difference here? This young man could have gone to college and played basketball if he wanted to, decided to instead sign a professional contract with the G League. He played 2 seasons of G League basketball.
Yeah.
And now he is coming to college basketball with 2 seasons of eligibility remaining. That is what the NCAA ruled. Practically speaking, tell me what is the difference between that and what I'm about to hypothesize.
Okay, let's hear it.
Liam McNeely goes to UConn.
Yeah.
He's a 5-star freshman. He has a fine freshman season, and he's drafted in the 2025 NBA draft. let's say he signs a standard 2-year contract, rookie scale contract.
Mhm.
Those are all that's what you get. He signs that. The way those rookie contracts work, there's a team option year 3, there's a team option year 4. Those almost always get picked up. I know that. Play along, though. Liam McNeely gets to the NBA, and he stinks, all right? Can't play. Nothing.
Mhm.
And after 2 years, they decline the team option. And nobody else in the NBA is interested because he's not any good. Dan Hurley picks up the phone and says, I can get you $4 million to come back to UConn and do us one more season with the Huskies. Practically speaking, what's the difference? Tell me.
Well, the rules literally don't allow for that, whereas it wasn't the case here. You can't declare for the draft and then return to be eligible in college sports. So this player never declared for the draft, and that's why he's eligible.
He was in the draft. He withdrew, but he did.
He withdrew, yes, but he withdrew. Liam McNeely never withdrew. So that's one big difference. Also, I think the parallel here is that this Darlin player is a lot like Testa Ritter at Virginia and some other players where they have logged. I think this is why he got eligible, period. You have Illinois got a guy like this. You've got a few players at high level D1, players that played professionally, earned a paycheck to play in leagues in Europe, and then cleared the eligibility bar to come over to the United States to enroll in college and play this season and beyond in men's college basketball. And Santa Clara, Darlin's representative, his agent, whoever, made the case of like, what's functionally the difference between DeRitter at Virginia and him right here? Is it because he played in a semi-professional, professional league stateside as opposed to somewhere in Spain or Italy or anywhere else? And they made that case, and that's why they were ruled eligible. That's where I think the connecting thread is here. But
okay, fine. Let me give you a new one. Player never enters a draft, but just signs a G League contract out of high school. However that works. And then is so good after 1 year in the G League that he's in the NBA. They pull him up. Now he's an NBA player, but then bombs and now he's out of the league. Can he come back to college after playing in the NBA? Why not?
No. Well,
why not?
The rule says you cannot be drafted and return to play college.
I didn't say he was drafted. Not drafted. Drafted. Signed a G League contract. Then played in the NBA, and now he's out of the NBA. He's played 2 seasons of professional basketball, one in the G League, one in the NBA, but now he's out of the NBA, and somebody's offering $3 million to come to college basketball. Can he do that after playing? Can you play it? If you can play in the G League one season and college basketball the next, why can't you play in the NBA one season and college basketball the next?
Hey, I don't know, but I say bring him on, man. Bring him on.
I don't care. I just don't know where we
players as possible in college basketball within reason. I don't want 27-year-olds like dotting rosters, but if you're within 20, 21 years old and you can pass it, I don't have a huge issue. I don't even know if this guy's going to be a factor, but I know this did raise some eyebrows there.
But if I were a college coach now, I would grab I'd have somebody on staff going, look through G League rosters and let's find comparable, like people with comparable stories.
Yeah.
And let's see if we can offer somebody, $1.5 million to come play college basketball. Like I would be doing that right now. And I bet you some coaches are.
Could be the next wave. There's always something, man.
There's always something.
In this sport. Nothing stops in this sport.
But like based on my premise, you could literally have somebody, in theory, play games against LeBron James, Kevin Durant, and Steph Curry in one season, and then play at the O-Dome the next.
It'd be amazing if so.
I say let's do it.
I don't think that stands up to actual scrutiny of what's written into the rule book, but I want to believe. Please make it happen.
Listen, I don't want to belabor the point and go down this block, but like you would have to explain why playing in the G League and coming to college is fine, but playing in the NBA and coming to college isn't, if it's the exact sets of circumstances leading up to that point. What, practically speaking, what is the difference between playing 2 years in the G League and playing 2 years in the NBA? You're playing professional basketball in the United States of America for a paycheck. They're both professional basketball leagues. Just one is obviously better than the other. But if we're now allowing G League players who were never drafted to bounce to college basketball, you would have to explain to me, and you might have to explain to a judge too. You'd have to explain to me and perhaps a judge why an NBA player wouldn't be allowed under the exact set of circumstances to do the exact same thing.
Last headline: Sister Jean has retired at the ripe age of 106.
Somebody's getting lazy.
Well, I'm not going to go there. I got my Sister Jean bobblehead right here. Hey, little Sister Jean. 106 before retiring. Just a legend in every sense of the word. Checked in. She did have I think she.
When I said somebody's getting lazy, I meant Bruce Pearl, not Sister Jean. What are you talking about? Bruce Pearl retired at 65.
I know.
Sister Jean would have done another
51.
40?
Dude,
Put the number on it. I wasn't going to try to add that up in my head.
41. Yeah, 41. 41 years.
Sister Jean did 4 more decades. Come on, BP.
I know. How about that? She's 106 years old. Like
that alone is just outrageous.
I think
we're
many
talking
of
about
us,
a 106-year-old.
I think many of us, you see Sister Jean and something pop across your feed or whatever, and you're like, please God, no. And thankfully, still, I think for 106 doing okay. I know she had a health issue earlier this year. I think it's just a factor of, again, being 106. This is entirely reasonable that she is now not going to be attending games on the regular, if I don't even know how frequently, but obviously her presence is still felt there. And she is a one-of-a-kind figure in American sports. But the news did come out this week. She is opting to retire as team chaplain at the beautiful age of 106 years old. Nothing but the best to you, Sister Jean.
I think when I first saw this, I had a similar breaking Sister Jean. I was like, oh, shit.
You cannot use, if that happened, I'm not saying it didn't. I don't know if I saw that, but you can't use the word breaking with Sister Jean.
It was something like that. It was something like I read Sister Jean and I was scared to read the next word.
Yes, exactly.
I didn't want to keep reading. I just wanted to stop right there. And then I was like, whew, okay, we're fine. We're fine. Just an amazing life. An amazing life. For a woman I have labeled the most famous nun in America.
You might have said in the world. That was part of our.
I know, but then I got some pushback. You know, the world's a big place.
Yes.
So I'm gonna keep it simple.
Okay.
The most famous nun in America, outside of possibly Whoopi Goldberg.
Okay. I think that's a show. I don't know what was going on in the chat. I think Nada banned someone in the September podcast, so I don't even know what was going on there. Nada, we appreciate you keeping things up and orderly. But I like when the chat's humming here on.
It's so funny to me. Like if you didn't know anything about anything, you just popped in. It's like the official CBS Sports College Basketball just arguing with everybody, and it's really just Nada. I
love it. That is a show. I think we're planning on doing a Monday show with a few more Candid Coaches. I'm off to the Ryder Cup bright and early tomorrow, covering the Ryder Cup this weekend. Very excited to get down there. You
ever been to Bethpage Black? You ever played Bethpage Black?
I haven't, no, buddy. No, I haven't. I've wanted to. A buddy of mine has done the drive there, sleep in your car overnight deal. But I've hopefully one day. But it's where it is on Long Island, kind of a pain to get to. But I'm getting there tomorrow, Saturday, Sunday. Really looking forward to it. And USA. We'll see if they can get it done on the old home turf there.
Are you sure you're rooting for America?
Should I be rooting for Europe? I'm going to be an objective journalist and just cover the event as it unfolds.
That's boring. That's boring. I'm not going to be objective. I'm going to pick a side, but I'm not sure who I'm going to pick. I'm going to decide tonight.
Okay. Well, they're releasing the tee times any minute here if they haven't already, as we've been podcasting. But yeah, that's it. That's all I got for you.
Shouts to Devin Downey. Shouts to Chester, South Carolina. Terry Teagle, he's a legend. Huck Larnell. Thank you guys once again for watching and listening to the Eye on College Basketball Podcast. If you're not subscribed, please go subscribe anywhere you subscribe to podcasts, including Apple and Spotify. There's more of us than there are of them. That should be reflected in the comments. So do that, and we'll talk to you again real soon. Till then.